this uploaded on our T&D dashboard, and that will be accessible to everyone after this training. So if people do need to review it later on, we do have that content. If you need to raise your hand also, feel free to raise your hand. We won't probably call on you right away in the middle of the training, but we will during the Q&A feature, and we'll get your questions in or comments. All right, hopefully I didn't miss anything. Let's move on to the next. Our agenda, jam-packed, but good content. We'll go over a couple informational slides, staff planning dashboards, related reports, some updates from fiscal team, and also support services. And then we'll have some opportunities for Q&A for after those brief presentations, and then we'll also get into some demonstrations for creating a new RPM estimate as well as updating an existing project estimate with time for Q&A as well, and then some updates to follow. So let's go ahead and move along to the bulk of the content. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Amy. This slide.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the staff planning and how what you're going to be doing relates to what I'm going to do. And Suzanne, a little bit later on, we'll talk about that. But essentially, why do you want to enter the cost estimates? In preparation for the capital budget meetings that generally take place in February of each year, our department provides cost estimates for existing projects and new projects with our partner departments. And what this does is helps them determine which projects they want to push forward for the coming fiscal year. In this case, we're talking about fiscal year 25. It helps us determine the staffing and the funding that's required to complete each of these projects. And it also helps them determine their overall project budgets. In general, we have about 250 positions in this department that are funded through capital projects. And so part of the goal in completing these cost estimates for us is to determine whether there's still a need for all of those positions. And really, do we need more positions or less positions to support the projects that are being estimated? So when it comes to me and I start meeting with the staff to talk about all of these projects, we see different results in the end. Sometimes it's adding positions. You find that you have a larger workload than the year before. So we might need to add some positions. Sometimes we might delete existing positions that are not filled. But that maybe we're not filling and we're not going to fill because there's just no workload for those positions in the next year. Or sometimes we actually realign positions and we might move positions from one team to another team that has a greater need with their workload. So by you entering the information that you do into the RPM, it helps us make well-informed decisions on how we're going to move forward with our capital staffing plan for the following year. Aside from determining the staffing, these entries that you put in are going to help Suzanne set the Public Works cost allocation, or the PW cap, that you're familiar with for the following fiscal year by the program and the fund. So she's going to talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, just wanted to put some key dates out here for you guys. We want to try to have most of these existing estimates done by December 15th. We want to have most of the new estimates done by January 12th. And this is in preparation for the budget meetings that should be happening around the February 5 to 8 timeframe. February 16th is going to be my cutoff date for staff to have everything entered into the system. That's when I run the last reports, have the last meetings, and we run with the numbers that we have. So important dates. The do's and don'ts are pretty simple. Do start early. Make sure that you have enough time to ask questions to the tech team, connect with folks, supervisors, whoever you need to help you get through the cost estimating. And then also make sure that you're considering the engineering services team to support your projects. So make sure that you're entering all of their services as well. And don't wait till the last minute, because that just makes it hard on everybody. So that's it for this slide. I think I'm going to be sharing a look at the staff plan dashboard with you all. So if you want to just give me a moment. Okay. Hopefully you all see my screen. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys how to access the dashboard so that as you're entering your projects, you're actually going to be able to look into the system. You'll be able to see if your projects have been carried over into the report. If you don't see your project, then it's a good trigger to go back into the module and make sure that everything's selected that needs to be selected, tagged, completed, so that it comes over. So you're going to go into the report section, and then right below that, you can go into the dashboards. And then the first one is your staff planning report. So you can click on that. And eventually it'll open up for you. So for training purposes sake, what we're looking at here are numbers for this current fiscal year. After the training today, this is going to be changed to fiscal year 25, and all of these numbers will be zeroed out, so that you'll see the numbers go up as you start entering your information. One thing to keep in mind also is that this is refreshed on an hourly basis, so it's not immediate. Hourly is pretty good. So you may enter something, you're not going to see it immediately if you check in here. Most of this report is pretty clickable. So you can kind of click into different areas. So let's see if we wanted to check out this electrical engineering team and see what kind of projects they have entered in to the system. We could click there. It will take us into a new sheet, the report of all of the projects that they have entered into the system to date. So that gives you an opportunity to kind of check that out. You can also download your reports if you wanted to. You would just come up to the little dots, hit export, and you can export it to Microsoft Excel and save from there. To the right of the dashboard itself, you find these other reports that may be helpful for you. If you're interested, I actually specifically use this FTE by funding program report for the staffing plan. So I encourage all of you to take a look at the dashboard, save this in your favorites so that you can always kind of check and make sure that the numbers are what they need to be. And definitely reach out if you have any questions. And I'm going to go ahead and stop there and hand it over to Suzanne.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Just in case you don't know me, I'm Suzanne McPherson. I'm the senior accountant in charge of the fiscal section of Public Works. I support the work you do in the capital projects, on your capital projects in a couple of ways. First, I oversee the staff who encumbers and pays the pay letters and invoices against your contracts and agreements. I also review just about every document you prepare in which an actual cost is involved, from plans and specs memos to things like change orders and service orders. But second, and more relevant to this training, I establish, as Amy mentioned, PW cap rates, which are overhead rates that reimburse Public Works for the cost of people that support but can't charge directly to your projects. People like me, your division analyst, a portion of the CPMS team, and even a portion of our department director's time gets allocated to your projects through the PW cap rate. So As Amy mentioned, I'll be preparing the PW cap rates using this data for the 24-25 fiscal year, using the RPM data that you are about to enter in the coming weeks. So I'd like to just highlight a couple things, a couple fields that will help me with that effort. Let's see, although you'll be focused on entering the hours of each staff resources you'll need in order to deliver each of your projects, behind those hours are billing rates, as Amy alluded to. I prepared those too and plan to have updated rates uploaded into RPM in 2 to 3 weeks. But there's nothing to stop you from entering data starting today. The CPMS team can update the cost estimates in the background once the rates are uploaded. So the important piece for me is choosing the correct funding program. Ensures that the correct billing rates in the background are applied to your project. So the table here shows a list of funding programs. Here's the list to choose from. What I'd like you to focus on is kind of take a look at the words, the keywords in the parentheses, words like storm, RWF, municipal improvements, that would be for buildings and so on. You would choose the corresponding program for your project. For the most part, you can focus on those keywords, but if you know that your project, for example, is funded by bond money, like Measure T, for example, there's a specific program for that, so you should choose those instead. It's rare that you're going to have a project that's bond funded, but if you know it's funded that way, please choose that program. Another way to identify the correct program is by the fund number. This table also shows fund numbers here. If you are familiar enough with the typical funds your projects tend to use, you can use this table to help you choose the right program. You'll be able to find this rate table in CPMS. If you click on the question mark next to the program name on the main tab, it'll take you to this to a page that shows this table. Rashmi has also provided a great way to do a sanity check to make sure that your existing projects have been assigned the correct program. I believe she'll show you that later, I'm hoping. If you find a discrepancy during that cross-check, you should update the program accordingly. If you're still not sure which program to choose, feel free to reach out to me or your division analyst for assistance, okay? Next slide, please. This slide illustrates the cost elements that I use in setting PW cap rates. Again, labor costs from the hours you enter are just one element. You'll also be asked to enter consulting fees, another big element of PW cap. Please don't forget to consider whether you're going to be utilizing a consultant during your feasibility, design, construction phases. If so, enter the amount. This is another important part. Enter the amount you expect to spend with each consultant for each individual year. If you estimate, say, $1 million in consulting fees for 24-25, but half of that isn't actually spent until 25-26, it will cause my 24-25 rates to be inaccurate. So we want to make sure that those consultant fees are entered accurately. It's an estimate. I know you're not sure if things are going to get pushed out or anything, but if you know it's going to be a multi-year project, it would be good to have that all split out. Let's see. Partner departments can be sensitive to fluctuations in PW cap rates from year to year. So anything you can do to help me deliver the most accurate rates possible would be really appreciated. Okay. That's it for me. I will pass it back to Clarissa. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Suzanne. I will put the next slide and pass it over to Steve.
Thank you, Clarissa. Hi, I'm Steve Choi. I'm the city surveyor and right now also acting division manager for engineering services. Engineering services are going to be your partner in getting these projects from inception to reality. And I have the honor of going over some of the core services that we can provide to you. As I mentioned, I'm the city surveyor, so I'm most familiar with the survey section. I might give that a little bit more detail, but a lot of that information will carry through to the other sections. So a survey is involved in almost every phase of your projects here. Phase one, your project visibility, we're going to go out and provide you the site conditions, which is a topo, and boundary or property lines, so that you know where the limits of your project can be. In phase two, which is your property and land acquisition, surveys can provide you plats and legal descriptions for additional land you might want to purchase in fee, try to acquire an easement, or even getting an encroachment permit from another agency. We work very closely with real estate during phase two. Phase three, your design phase, we're going to be reviewing a lot of your plans and specs, as well as all the other sections in engineering services, as well as picking up any additional information that you might need for like topos. You might want to expand your site, expand your limits. This is where we can also provide you additional data. Phase four, this is one of the phases that we have very little input in as far as contracts and bidding and awards. But phase five, we can have a lot of input as far as the construction phase. We can do the stakeout, we can do monumentize if the work is going to be in the street and any street monuments are going to be affected. Laying out traffic lanes, pavement layout details. This is, the meat and potatoes of your project, getting it constructed. And also we're involved in phase six, the post-construction and the closeout phase. If there were any monuments damaged, then that's where we would follow up with filing the appropriate state mandated records for corner records or records of surveys. So that survey, I covered it a little bit more in detail. Same thing goes for our other sections in engineering services. MTL, Material Testing Lab, they're going to be all things related to pavement. If you're going to be doing any work in the roadway, any trenching, if you have any geotechnical needs, these are the experts that are going to be providing you that consultation and advice on what needs to happen. I forgot the contact. So for survey section, feel free to contact myself, or if you want actually a response, contact Sam Aguirre. He's more responsive than I am. And back to Materials Testing Lab, contact there is Henry Lee and Lorena Pedesco. Transitioning to the middle column, construction management, the CIMS, CIP folks. These are your construction inspectors, the civil construction inspectors. They're going to ensure that the contractors build the plan, build the specs, and build the code. So your contacts there, Adolfo Alvarez, Frank Moreno, he's the principal construction inspector for Storm and Sanitary, and Chris Hernandez, another PCI for electrical, roads and bridges, airport, and CFAS. Moving over to the fourth column, we have some more inspectors. This is our development fee group, or the Utility USA group, or otherwise known as the Call Before You Dig. These are the folks that are going to help you coordinate the utilities that's underneath the pavement. So feel free to contact Gary Sangha. He's the construction manager there, or George Asuna, another PCI. Last but not least, our SECI group, Structural Engineering and Code Inspection. These are the folks that are going to ensure that on city facilities, the structure for your library, the structure for your fire station, the structures for your community centers are all built sound and safe and to building codes and standards. And they work very closely with our CFAS group. So many of you are very familiar with these folks here. So Ron Cruz is our principal engineer. And Alexis Cervantes is our senior engineer over that group. And these are all the contact information as we go in later to question and answers. If I don't have a specific answer to a question, I may ask that you contact one of these folks directly. And I think we're done with this slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so some of the support services highlights, the cost estimate request. Why use this cost estimate request? As Amy alluded to, they need the cost estimates to put into the projects, to build the staffing plan, to identify the budgets and everything. But why actually use this request form itself? Why can't I just submit an email? Well, we're not really accepting emails anymore. Emails can be lost. They can be forgotten. Someone may be on vacation, or maybe they're just not in the office and not able to take an email for whatever reason. It's something personal is going on in their life. If you can use the request form and submit it into the Smartsheet, that's going to be the easiest way for us to go back and review what projects need an estimate. And it's easiest way for us to track those projects. That's actually easier for the project team as well. If you hate filling out forms, this is going to make it simpler for you, because a lot of the information in this form is going to be auto-populated from CTMS, and it can be submitted anytime throughout the year. We know that the only constant in life is change, and so things are going to change on your project, whether it be the scope of the work, the size of the project, or maybe including or excluding certain service units. Things have changed, and you can submit a new request at any time, whether it be at the staffing planning level, advertising level, or award level. We can make those changes for you, and we'll show you how to do that in a few minutes. The estimate request itself, help us help you. Be detailed if you can. This is going to be an iterative process. We're going to give you a estimate from that 10,000 foot level, just based on what we forecast. So we need to have a little bit of information to do that. If you only want some placeholder numbers, let us know that. This way we won't have to put a lot of work into providing you a detailed estimate. We'll just give you some approximate numbers to put in there. But if you want something a little bit more detailed, so that your budget can handle it more appropriately, just give us a little bit more information on what the scope of work is. Later on, when we actually do the work, if and when we do the work, then you'll be submitting different requests to us, and that's when we can be really detailed and nail down that scope of work. But right now, give us a high level bit of information so we can give you a good approximation. Again, these are estimates, and allow about a couple of weeks for us to return the estimates. You have us outnumbered. We only have small teams able to work on the estimate requests. So if we get multiple requests at the same time, it's going to take us a while to get through that queue. And all of us are going to ask for a charge number, whether it be to work on the estimate request itself, if it's a large project, or a charge number that's phase appropriate as we do the work later in the year. And again, the way the estimates are done, CMS CIP, the construction inspectors, they're going to provide you estimates by position by the FTEs. Everyone else in engineering services, the lab, SECI surveys, and the B group, we're going to give you estimates based on hours and the cost for those services. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony Nguyen, Engineer 2 in Public Works Engineering Services Surveys, who will go through the next slide and do a demonstration. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anthony Nguyen. I'm an Engineer 2 for Public Works Survey. For this demonstration, I'm going to be doing a live demo on how to create a cost estimate request form. Let me share my screen real quick. So first of all, what you're going to do is you're going to go into your construction projects and record search, and you're going to click this top right section that forwards you to the CPMS portal. And from there, you're going to be logging in and going through your construction project. So in order to create that cost estimate request, you're going to go into your project, you're going to press edit, and from there, you're going to go to settings. It's going to do a drop-down menu. For there, you're going to click the cost estimate request. Keep in mind, when you're creating your cost estimate request, please do it from the CPMS portal. Any bookmarks, old bookmarks that you had, any old hyperlinks that you have that directed you towards the cost estimate request will probably not work functionally correct compared to if you were to just do this on the CPMS portal. So please, if you're going to make a cost estimate request, do it through CPMS, and there'll be less problems, hopefully, and everything will go smooth. So once you go here, you're going to click cost estimate request, and then another tab is going to pop up that shows your cost estimate request form. From there, you're going to see a lot of the stuff has been auto-populated already within this cost estimate request, besides several items such as working days, engineering estimate, and your charge number. So it is important that for at least for you to have a charge number, because if we want to do the work, we're going to need a charge number to charge it to. And please input a rough estimate of your engineering estimate if you can. It doesn't have to be accurate, it can always change, but just place something in there so it benefits several of our engineering services. These are generally going to be for new projects. For due dates, please allow at least 2 weeks to process an estimate. So if you're going to put in a cost estimate request form today, please have the due date due on the 30th of November. Additionally, there are some at the very bottom, you can see the engineering services sections that are offered for your cost estimate request. So for now, I'm just going to highlight all of them to show what happens, when you're clicking all of these. So from here, you'll see that you'll get another drag down menu, and you'll be able to choose from each section what you want to do or what you're trying to request from. I'm going to click on some so you can see some examples of what each section offers in terms of services for their cost estimates. If you have any questions about any of these services, you can refer back to Steve's slide where we have all the contact information for each of the sections contacts. So once you're able to populate these sections and you're done, you're ready to submit your cost estimate request, you're going to get an email. It might take a while, maybe like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Depends on how long, I don't know what the feedback of this thing is. But what you'll see is you'll get an email similar to this, and it'll tell you, what you requested from which sections, and it'll give you 2 links and also the due date, and it'll also give you 2 links where it'll direct you to one will be a list of all the current cost estimates that are being done. Let me just scroll real quick to show. So you can see that there's some numbers filled out and all this stuff. And then the second link that will be shown that is on the bottom of that screenshot is a list of the total amount of cost estimates that are being done for each section, or just the total being done, and you'll see which ones are completed and which ones are pending. Some other notes as well. Let's say with a scenario, if you forget if you submit a cost estimate request and you forget to include one section, let's say you did survey but you wanted also MTL, what you would do is you would have to do the steps again. You would have to go back into your project portal. You would have to create a new cost estimate request. You would do everything the same: engineering estimate, charge number, estimated working days, it's a new project due date. But in addition to this additional information box, you'll be entering why you are resubmitting this cost estimate. You could say this is a resubmission of a cost estimate because I forgot to add a section adding MTL to my cost estimate request with this for this service and so forth. And once you add all that, you'll be able to submit it again. And what will happen is it'll go to us, and that old request that you did will be marked as an old cost estimate request, and the newer one will be overlapping or will overtake the old one. And for this one as well, if you're wondering what will happen to this, if you click on the link and you're trying to look at your cost estimate as well, the latest cost estimate form will be the one that will be shown on here. Your old one won't. So whichever is the one that you submitted more recently will show up on this page. But yeah, other than that, I think that concludes my demonstration, and give it back to Clarissa.
Great. Thank you, Steve and Anthony. I will put up our slide deck back. All right, we are at Q&A. Let's see here. We have one unanswered question. Looks like one of the, just reviewing these. Yeah, let's go for the unanswered question. Here we have, are we notified when estimates are complete? If not, what is the best way to check the status? If we can't find the original email response, it seems difficult to find. I'll
I
open
want
that
to
up.
answer it live, actually, yeah.
Perfect.
So, Lisa, if the estimates are, if suppose you have requested from 3 different sections, and suppose CMS, MTL, and survey, and 2 of them are ready with the estimates, but 1 is not, right? So, if there's a good way to look at the estimates of what has been provided yet so far. So if I share my screen. So the link which Anthony was showing to you is also here in the dashboard, ES estimates. So that one long row, which you'll see, will have all the estimates, even if you don't have the email notification. So if this is supposed to be request, if you keep going, you'll find the number of hours and the estimates. I hope that answers. Yeah.
Thank you, Rajmi. All right. When we want an updated estimate when awarding a contract, do we go through the same process? Question mark. I wanna.
Steve, can you maybe help answer this question? Do you want project managers to go through the same process when they're asking for an estimate through when they're awarding a contract?
Sure. Well, I'm going to say it depends. If nothing much has changed in the scope of work, then I say no, they don't have to submit a new one, and they can just use the estimates that were provided previously. But if there has been any changes to what the work is going to be, or to the scheduling, or if they just want something updated to the current rates, loaded rates, maybe we provided the estimate 1.5 or 2 years ago, and you're going now after the cost of living, and you want to reflect what the current rates are, then I would say, yeah, probably submit it and just put in the comments you just want everything revised to the current rates. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. We've got a hand raised also, so I'm gonna allow to go ahead and talk there.
Yeah, Rashmi, can you do me a favor? Can you bring up that log again? I just have a follow-up question. So if we want to check the status, we go to this log and it's gonna have it, we'll have to search for our project,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
For the project number.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so these are all the requests. And so then when we scroll over to the right
Mhm.
and we're looking for whether or not someone has entered anything for engineering services, there's no specific um, specific positions, right? It's just CMS or it's just CMS staff or survey staff or right. So these are just generic numbers, hours that we're putting in.
No, this one
Oh no, they're here at the top. Okay, so the
is yeah,
top identifies the role.
right.
Okay, the position.
And another good way to look into this is, Elisa, if you go here, these three dots, right?
Mhm.
View detail, it will give you like instead of horizontal.
You can do it that way. Okay.
Right?
And just to clarify, this should be our last cycle using RPM, correct?
So cost estimates for this ES survey things will still be same. The only difference is like as a tool, instead of using RPM, we'll switch to CPP, which we
Right.
will talk more about it.
Okay. So I just
All-
wanted to, if this was going to be continuing, I think we've asked for this before, it would be great if on our project tab, if there was just like a button that we could click that would take us to like the status of our estimates. But RPM's going away. So that, I may ask that question again when CPP comes up, but it's going to be totally different the way we interact with it. So it's fine. We'll still do these extra steps. It's just it's not the best. It's not very user friendly, right? It's hard to scroll all over and find everything. So it's fine. I know where to go now. We'll go to the dashboard. That seems like the best place to go. So, okay, that's fine. That answers my question. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Thank you.
All right, we have another hand raised. Go ahead and allow you to talk. Hopefully I'm saying your name right, Hazen. Did you still have a question, Hazen?
You're on mute, Hazen, if you do have a question.
All right, we'll go ahead and get back. In case you do, go ahead and raise your hand again. Maybe it was just raised, but I'll address some of the answered questions. I want to make sure this question was answered. In the example just shown, some OT categories included estimate, plan, review, inspection. What does estimate mean in this case? Aren't they all estimates? Answer, I don't think estimate was included under the categories when you select MTL or survey. You want to select the service you need from the specific support group. If that doesn't answer your question, feel free to raise your hand. So if that didn't answer it, I don't see any hand raises as of now, but do these cost estimates replace us inputting and using RPM? And the answer is no. This information is provided to you so you can enter it into RPM. I don't have any other unanswered questions, so I'll give a few seconds if anyone else had their hand needs to put their hand raised again. Doesn't look like, nope, doesn't look like it. All right. Let's go ahead and move along to creating a new RPM estimate. I believe that's Amanda.
No, it's
Or
me.
Aziza. There you go. Go for it, Aziza.
All right, thanks, Clarissa. Hey everyone, so I'm going to demonstrate on how to create a new RPM estimate. So I will go ahead and share my screen. And so the assumption is that there's an upcoming project that you're going to be given either from your partner department or something that you've been provided by your senior project that will be upcoming in future years. And so you want to go ahead and create an estimate for that. So that's in Amy and Suzanne's report to make sure we include staff for those projects. And so here's an example of one project that is new, doesn't have an estimate. I'm going to go ahead and click edit. And what you want to do is you want to make sure your schedule is set. And so one thing that we really echoed in the CPP training is that we do want staff to go ahead and use CPP to create their schedule and then also to create their budgets. And so when you go ahead and click the Launch CPP project, again, I'm not going to go through this. There's a training back in October that you can reference if you're curious on how to do it. But I've actually already created a CPP workspace for this project. And so if I go ahead and click on it, it's going to take me to that workspace that includes the schedule that I just created for this project here under Schedule Planner, and then the budget that I created for this project as well. And so you want to make sure your schedule is set and your project budget is set before you want to go into RPM. And so if you want to make sure once your schedule is set in CPP and your budget is set, you can make sure you can do the CPP dates to CPMS sync. So that way all the dates that are in CPP are in your schedule tab here. And so here's my budget planner. I'm going to be using this as my reference to update RPM. And the nice thing is that you can actually print this out if you want to. It's probably a little bit easier to print it out and be able to reference it as you're going through RPM. For this example, I'm just going to go back and forth so I can show you guys. So again, schedule is updated based on what I know today, and the budget is updated based on what I received from staff, from support services, and what I've assumed for the project. And so I'm ready to go ahead and launch the RPM project. So I'll click Launch RPM. And it's going to show you that you need to create a new estimate. So I'll go ahead and create new estimate, and this is going to create a project in RPM for you. And so it's going to take about a couple minutes, if that actually, and my apologies, I need to be signed out of here. So it's going to actually not take you to RPM. It's just going to go ahead and create the project for you. And then you can click on the Launch RPM project again, and you'll see there's actually an estimate created, and you can actually open that now. And so it'll take you to the resource management page, and it's going to require an email. And so we have a generic email for everyone to use, and you're going to reference that generic email from the help document here, from the help dropdown here in CPMS under RPM user guide. So when you click RPM user guide, it's going to go ahead and open the user guide. Here's your table of contents for the user guide. You want to go straight to login credentials, and you can actually find the login credentials in the RPM Clinics Teams channel. So I'm going to click on it. I'm not going to open the Microsoft Teams channel for you guys since it's in a separate window. But when you do click on it, you just have to scroll to the top, and it gives you the username and password. And you can also use this RPM Teams channel to ask questions, and those questions will go directly to the CPMS team. So the username and password, as I mentioned, is located in that Teams channel. So I'll go ahead and enter it. So it's pw_cfiles@sanjoseca.gov. And the password is capital W welcome to capital CPMS. You'll go ahead and sign in. And so when you do initial sign in, it's going to take you to the home page. What you can do is you can just search for your project up here by clicking, putting in your CPMS ID. You can always just click again your launch RPM to go ahead and to get that pretty quickly. But I'm just going to go ahead and enter it here. And now that I created an RPM project, all the information that's in CPMS should be populated into this brief front page, and it's going to give you the description. It's going to give you a quick overview of the schedule that was synced over from CPMS, that was initially synced over from CPP. And then it has a lot of other information on the bottom. There's an option to look at the rate sheet. You don't need to worry about entering rates, but you have the option to go look at that if you're interested. There's also, again, the RPM clinic page that you can click on. You can go back to the CPMS page as well. There's just a lot of really cool features and information at the bottom here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go to the schedule tab, and this is where you're going to enter your resources. I'm going to actually show you two ways to enter your resources. One is through the schedule tab. So for example, in phase 1, I'll go back to CPP. And in phase 1, you can actually move this page if you don't decide to print it out, and you can actually freeze certain columns as well to make it easier to see. So here we are, phase 1. I have a THS staff, associate engineer from PWTHS Roads and Bridges, who's going to work on this project in phase 1, and they're going to work total 100 estimated hours. So what I'll do is I'll go in here. I will left click it, add team member, and then you're going to want to search PWTHS Roads and Bridges, so you can actually search the discipline. And then you want to search the placeholder, or in this case, you know, it's pretty much the position. So it's going to be an associate engineer. And so you want to click on that position that just got added, and you want to go under allocation. And under allocation, you always want to have total. You do not want to have percentage. You don't want to have hours per day. It does not do the calculation for us on the back end. So you always want to have total. And so if I go back here, again, I allocated about 100 hours for phase 1. I'll go ahead and enter 100 hours and then click update. And you'll see that the hours got added. You can also go in here and add a note of what that individual is working on, or what that position will be working on, like I have here in CPP. So that associate engineer is going to prepare the feasibility study. So I can add that here. It gives you some more information about what that individual is going to be working on. It might be easier to enter team members through the work list tab. So I'll go ahead and enter the rest of my team members through work list. So for example, if I go back to my CPP, I have, let's see, I have a CFAS staff member working on my median island drawings and specs, and I have the senior engineer and the associate reviewing and preparing the specs and engineer's estimate. So what I'll go ahead and go under here, phase 3, I'll go ahead and add a team member. Again, I'll search PW, CFAS, Landscape Arc 1, and then I'm looking for a senior architect. So I'll click senior architect. Again, I can go ahead and add the description if I want of the details that the individual is going to be working on. And then I want to go to allocation. And again, I just want to enter total, not percentage, not hours per day, total. And so if anyone gives you that information in percentage or hours per day, you're probably going to want to have to try to figure out how to convert it to total. Again, that all should be already done in the budget planner. And so you're just really entering the information from CPP. So I'm going to go ahead and enter 30 hours for this individual. I'm going to go ahead and save changes. You can go ahead and close that. And so you'll see the individual got added. I'll go ahead and go into phase 5, or let's actually go ahead and add. So I do have a DOT staff member actually working on this project. And so I did add some DOT staff here. So they're going to be working on this. So if I'm going to have another department working on this project, all you have to do is search for other, and you'll see other department staff. And this applies for any other partner departments or other departments that are working on your project. Again, you want to identify maybe what they're working on, but the biggest thing is you want to identify their allocation. So let's just say you know, I think I put 40 hours per week or something. So we'll go ahead and save changes. Now, again, I did get my estimate from my CMS staff. So let me just go ahead and quickly show you guys my phase 5 estimate. So let's, from my support services request, I'm going to have a senior construction inspector working on this project. So I'll go ahead and again, look up PW, ES. And there's also like on CPP, it does tell you the section. So that way you don't have to guess what section they're from. So CMS, and then it's going to be a senior construction inspector, right? Yeah. So senior construction inspector, they're going to be doing inspection, and then I'll go ahead under the allocation, set the total hours, and the senior inspector told CMS told me that they're going to be working about 744 hours. So I'll go ahead and enter that. Okay. So this is also another way to go ahead and enter your staff. It might be a little bit easier and quicker to do it through WorkList, but it's your preference. If you go back to schedule, you'll see all the staff that I did enter in here. And so keep going and you'll add all your staff into RPM. And once you're done adding all your staff, now it's time to add your non-labor expenses. So you're going to go ahead and go into project settings. And you're going to scroll down, and there's a couple buttons that you're going to have to click. Time budget and fee budget. You only want to click specify one time budget for the entire project and specify one fee budget for the entire project. This is only really to give you some, if you're curious to run an RPM report on the data that you just entered, that's really the only benefit of it. If you're not really curious, RPM again doesn't really have a really good total of the project. I think what is in CPMS is probably a little bit more better than this, but you can just go ahead and click these buttons here to go ahead and specify the one-time budget for the entire project and the one fee budget. Now, well, the important part is the expense budget. You want to make sure that you specify an expense budget for each phase. And this is really important because you want to make sure you identify all your non-personal costs under the phase that you're going to be spending that money. For example, I do have a consultant on this project. They are going to be, the expenditures are going to happen through phase 3. And so I can go down and I see here's my phase 3 section. And you always want to add a predefined category. Do not enter your own category because it will not get picked up in the report. So you always want to add a predefined category. And you want to identify the fiscal year that the charges are going to occur. So for example, my consultant is going to probably start in the beginning of fiscal year 24-25. And so I'll go ahead and just start entering fiscal year 24-25. And here's all your predefined categories. And so I'm going to go ahead and enter my consultant expenses. And so if I go back to CPP to my phase 3, I've actually already entered what my consultant expenses are going to be. So here we are, phase 3, consultant expenses. And if I scroll all the way to the end, it's $100,000. So I have a service order for $100,000. That's all going to be expended next fiscal year. And now I got to enter my construction costs. So I go to phase 5, construction. Again, you want to do add predefined category. You're going to look up the fiscal year that the expenditures are going to happen. Now my construction is going to actually overlap between 2 fiscal years. So if I go back to my CPP, I'll notice that my engineer's estimate is about 900,000 and my construction contingency is about 90,000. And so I think I'm going to be spending about maybe 10%, or let's say 10% of that in fiscal year 24-25. And then I'm going to go ahead and add another predefined category for 25-26. Oops. And I'm going to probably spend the rest of that money and then that upcoming fiscal year. For contingency, I think the same thing. If I do end up using all my contingency, most likely it's going to happen in the following fiscal year. So I'll make sure to enter all of that here as well. Okay, and then any other non-personal costs that you have here in CPP, your PBCE and CECO costs. Oh, I do have that actually. It's about 10,000. That's going to happen during phase 1. I want to make sure I enter that here as well. So I'll say fiscal year 24-25, and you'll see PBC CECO costs, and you put $10,000. And so everything in this kind of brownish reddish color is all your non-personal costs. This is where you're going to be entering it under the expense budget. Now that I've entered all my soft costs, my staff time, my non-staff costs, everything, I'm going to go back to the top, and I'm actually ready to go ahead and tag this project to be on Amy and Suzanne's report. What I'm going to do is, again, you can check all this information, make sure everything is accurate. I'm going to go ahead and change the project type to confirmed. And I'm going to also go here to this budget stage. And this is important because there's actually options to pick depending on whether your project is going to move forward. So if your project is a 50% chance that it's going to move forward or more, you want to click anticipated. If you know for sure this project is going to move forward, just go ahead and click new project. If there's a 50% chance or less that this project is going to move forward, you want to click potential. And then ongoing is for any existing project. So I know this project is going to move forward 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and select new project. Again, this is important for Amy's report, so we can identify where this project stands. And so I got my project confirmed. I identify the budget stage, and I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom now that everything is entered. Now you don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to worry about bill rates or anything. You're just going to go ahead and tag it. And don't worry, we're going to actually delete these other two so people don't get confused, but you want to tag the fiscal year 2025 cost estimate. And at this point, your schedule's done. You're at this point right now, like I know this is what I know is my cost estimates for this project and my schedules and everything. I'm going to go ahead and I'm ready to push this out to Amy and Suzanne's report. So I'm going to go ahead and save and tag. And so I made sure to tag it. And so you can actually check to make sure your project got tagged by going to the projects button here at the top, and you can actually go under here, shared views, and you can click fiscal year 2025 projects. And you'll actually see a handful of projects that have already been tagged, which is good. I mean, people are working on it. And I should see my project in here. Oh, there it is. So 10387 ADA. So my project has been tagged and confirmed. So it should be in Amy and Suzanne's report. All right. So that's how to enter a new project in RPM. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it to Amanda, who's going to go over how to update an existing project.
Thank you, Aziza. So I will go ahead and share my screen real quick. And what I'm going to be covering is how to enter how to update an existing RPM, one that you already did last year, and how to enter that. So first thing you want to do is, like what Aziza mentioned before, is go in through CPMS, find your project, right? And then once you get into the CPMS page, what you want to do is go into schedule and then edit. And then you'll see how it's going to be launched here. So a couple of notes real quick. If your project is going to be completed by June 30th, 2024, you do not have to update your RPM for resource planning purposes. Okay, so this again, as Amy was mentioning, this is for budget planning for fiscal year 24-25 and beyond. So if your project is going to be done by June 30th, 2024, you do not have to update it. Now, if you want to update your RPM so it reflects on your CPMS under your budget tab here and under your resources, so you can actually see accurate resources, you can do that. But that's for project management type of for project management tracking, not really for resource planning. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. So once you get into your project and you want to update your RPM, what you want to do is, first of all, you want to push your dates in, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to show how it would typically look. So you already have a confirmed RPM from last year that you did. If you click on that, is everything's already filled out, and you can see how the phases and all of your resources, your classification, all the people working on your project is nicely aligned, right? So when I go ahead and push the dates, this little button here that says CPMS dates to RPM, once I push that, it's going to misalign all of the dates. So those are the things that you'd have to keep in mind to update. So once I push it through, it's going to look like this instead, where all of the dates are no longer aligned, right? Phase 1, phase 3, all of them are going to be sort of messed up, okay? So with that said, what you want to do is push the blue button, like I said, to push your latest and greatest CPMS dates into your RPM, and then you want to go into your RPM from here and start updating things. So the best way to do it, don't do it under the schedule tab here, because revising under the schedule tab is very difficult. So go into your work list. Okay, and under work list, you can do a couple of things. I'm just going to focus right now on, let's say, your bid and award. Okay, so bid and award, you can see how the new dates that you pushed in from CPMS is now August 3rd to October 4th, but your old dates are all kind of misaligned here. So a few things that you want to do, first of all, is if you want to add a description to the resource, so let's say this person is still working on it, but you want to add a description. The same thing as what Aziz was talking about. Let's say they're going to do plan review or yeah, something like that here. Okay, the other thing you want to look at is your number of hours. If no longer it's not going to be 60 hours, it's going to be 80 hours, and go ahead and change that here as well, okay? And then the last thing that you'll really have to do that's going to be kind of a pain here is, if people are still working on this project, is your dates. So what you want to do is click on the dates, and the easiest way to align your dates to the new phase dates is to click start and then snap it, right? Set to phase start, click on the end, and set to phase end. Okay, and then that will go ahead, and now your resource here has October 4th to May 13th. So now it's aligned to that. All right, I don't know why I went to the other construction, but let's go ahead and do this one. I'll show again. So you want to do the dates, hit the date, set to phase start, click on the end, set to phase end. So now your resource here has the correct dates. Okay, and then the other thing you want to look at is if some people might have changed, or you want to add a team member, you can go ahead and add a team member. Same thing like what Aziz was talking about. You can go ahead and pick a new person. Let's say somebody over in CMS Materials Lab, they're added somebody, they're doing something in bid and award for whatever reason. You can always add that. Okay, and you can also add whatever they're planning on doing in terms of a little description of what they're doing as well. So once you get everything in the work list here all aligned, you can double check and look at your schedule view and see to make sure that all of the dates and all of the resources are aligned properly, right? So it'll end up looking more like this, this view here, nice and aligned, everything. After that happens, the only other thing you need to update is you go into project settings. And there's just a few things here in project settings that you'll need to do. One is you want to go ahead and make sure that if it's your confirmed and final estimate, you want to go ahead and confirm it. The other thing that you want to update is the budget stage. Okay, before it might say new project because that was the new estimate that you had from last year. What you want to do is you want to change it to say ongoing. Okay. And then the other thing you want to update is any of the non-staffing cost that needs to be updated. For instance, if your phase 5, you're under construction, right? Let's say it was 22, 23, and now you want to add it to 23, 24. You want to go ahead and add the predefined. So I already did it here, but let's say it used to be 22, 23. What you want to do is delete that, and then add the predefined categories, and you say, let's say construction is going to start 24-25. Right, and let's say contingency is also going to be in 24-25. geez, I can't see where my contingency is. 2425 contingency is right there. Okay. And then you add whatever, whatever updated, right? If it's still $1 million for your construction contract, and let's say it's still $100,000 for your contingency. Now, just a kind of a clarification here, this is the cost or the numbers, what you want to put here, and the years that you want to put are the years that you think you're going to be encumbering this amount of money. So your contract award amount, $1 million, this is fiscal year 24-25. This is the amount that you'll be encumbering in fiscal year 24-25. If your contingency, if you don't think you're going to be encumbering it in fiscal year 24-25, let's say you think, oh gosh, you know what, my contingency, I'm going to actually be encumbering that in 25-26, then you want to go ahead and choose that fiscal year. Okay, so let's say your construction contingency, you made a mistake. Oh, you know what, it's going to be encumbered in fiscal year 25-26, not in 24-25. So you want to update that. You want to go ahead and delete it. Once you save it, all of these spaces will go away. So don't worry, it'll look cleaner. You don't have to do anything with the bill rates. That's what we're getting away from that because everything is automatically loaded. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to add your tag, and always just choose, don't type anything here, just choose your pre-selected tab of fiscal year 2025 cost estimate, and you save it. And that's pretty much how you would update an existing RPM. Now, there's one scenario. If you don't have an existing RPM for a project that you are actually working on, let's say your project didn't come onto your radar until after all of the RPMs were created last year. So what you want to do in that situation is do exactly what Aziza was talking about, create a new RPM. Okay, and the only difference would be when you go into the project setting after you create your new RPM, you want to go ahead and instead of the budget stage being new, like what Aziza was mentioning, because this is kind of an ongoing project, it's just one that does not have an existing RPM, you want to go ahead and choose ongoing. Okay, so that's pretty much I'm going to end my presentation, my actually demonstration here, and just a few things you want to remember. So Clarissa, can you go ahead and put up the next slide? Okay, so just a few things to remember. First of all, RPM sign-in is the pw_cfiles@sanjoseca.gov, and your password is welcome to CPMS. It's right there. There's no more carryover estimates. We're no longer using that terminology, carryover estimates, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't need to input any bill rates. Rates are automatically loaded in depending on the CPMS program that you have chosen. For projects involving other departments, I think Aziza mentioned it, so you want to go ahead and put down other department staff as the classification. In the project settings, make sure you don't type in anything manually. You want to go ahead and just choose from those predefined categories for any non-staffing entries. You want to confirm your estimates and also tag them. And again, don't type in anything like fiscal year 26, 27, just use the predefined one, and you're only going to see fiscal year 2025. So just choose that button. And then just kind of a reminder that this is the last year that we're going to be using RPM. RPM. Next year, we're going to be transitioning to CPB, and hopefully we'll be transitioning by April 15th, 2024. So that's going to lead me into Q&A.
Actually, Amanda,
Uh-huh.
I want to talk about two things in the existing projects. So I'll just share my screen one second. So am I sharing the right screen? Do you see my project, CPMS project?
Yes, we see a CPMS project on your budget tab, resource budget tab.
Right. So basically, when we are doing the existing projects, right? So if you see all these golden ones, right? So basically you have not estimated these resources. So it's better to address them, like if we can see if we want to add them in the estimates. So this is one good indicator to see which resources to include more.
Yeah, thank you, Rashmi. So it's a project management tool. So if you want to go ahead and update your RPM to reflect what is either not accurate or something that you want to revise, so it's reflected in your resource summary a little bit more accurately, feel free to do so in RPM.
Right. The other thing which I want to show you is like within RPM, if you want to see that your project will be accounted for, right? So this tag over here, FY 2025 projects, right? This is, everybody sees it here. Basically, it's just picking the confirmed projects and with the tag FY 2025. Because we refresh hourly, if you want to see before that, that will my project be accounted or not? If your project is listed here, it will be accounted.
Okay, thank you, Rashmi.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're at Q&A. Any questions about a new RPM, how to enter that, how to update existing, how to utilize CPP to enter a new RPM?
Rashmi, would it be okay if you showed people where to find that quick check, that cross-check field? Programs to fund numbers
Sure,
cross-check
sure.
that you added? Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So yeah. So one other thing which we added is let's go here. So and under funds allocation in the budget tab, funds allocation, it is reflecting again which program is used for funding and what are the related funds here. So there is a mismatch in this one, I think. Says
Perfect example.
This information here, actually we get it from FMS, that what has been entered there, that which funds is being used. And so this can help again in checking that right program is used or not, which Suzanne is emphasizing that to get the correct PW cap, we need that right information. So yeah, right here.
All right. I don't see any Q&A questions, but I'm going to give it a moment, see if anyone has anything or any hands raised. Thank you, Amanda, Ziza, Rajmi, for going through all that. We'll give a couple seconds for people to process it all. If not, then we don't have any questions, and presenters did an awesome job, which sounds like it already. All right, I'm gonna put it back to presenters. If you guys don't have anything else to add, I will move on to the next slide because we don't have any Q&A or hands raised at the moment. All right, we'll move along. Feel free to still input if there is anything that comes to mind as we're going through this. We're pretty good on time, but RPM resources that we want to address. Most of you may be familiar with most of this, but these are all the tools and resources that you guys have available. One being the user guide help, and when you receive this slide deck later on, and or if you access it from the T&D dashboard, you'll be able to hit these links automatically, but there is the pathway to it too. Number 2, RPM Clinic Teams channel. That was addressed at some point in the presentation, so there's easy link to that. And then number 3, frequently asked questions, so your FAQ link. Number 4, we have office hours every Tuesday, 1 to 2 with CPMS Tech Team. Tech Team is here now as panelists too, so if you have any questions for them, but they are available during those times. And newly offered, we do have a T&D training and development newsletter and RPM newsletter, which is sent out to you via email. So if you received it and you saw it and you clicked around, awesome. That will be sent out to you guys frequently. We won't bombard you with a bunch of emails on newsletters, but it's a great tool to have if you need quick access to anything. You can just look up in your email, search quickly newsletter or a keyword that you're looking for. And every link that we are talking about here, plus more, are located in those newsletters. I should mention T&D newsletters sent out to all Public Works staff, and RPM, or sorry, CPMS newsletter is sent out to the Public Works staff, including actually CPMS users. So CPMS newsletter is sent out to CPMS users. So that could be outside of the department as well. Next, important dates. These were addressed at some point already, but we want to make sure you guys are all aware of these important dates that Amy mentioned. We've got December 15th, existing estimates released by PW to departments. We've got January 12th for new estimates released by Public Works to partner departments. And February 5th through 8th is the capital budget meetings. So super important to get all that before then. And February 16th is the last day to enter items into RPM for consideration. And the new date that Amanda addressed, the CPP transition should end by April 15th. So CPP will be used as of that date completely. And that brings us to the end of the training. If anyone else has anything else, feel free. Otherwise, no more Q&A questions have come in since then. And no hands raised. Thank you, presenters. Thank you, participants, for joining. You are free to go for your afternoon. If you're still on, please do your DSW training. Just a little add-in, but
And
get it
thank you
done.
everyone for being flexible. I know we had to cancel yesterday's training. Unfortunately, we just had mix up with the PW webinar. So I do appreciate everyone being flexible to be available today to jump on this training. And again, we'll make sure that the training is available to everyone, even the staff that probably weren't able to attend because they had prior commitments. But just wanted to thank everyone for being flexible and joining us this afternoon after yesterday's disaster, which was totally out of all of our control.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. All right, well, everyone is leaving. I'll go ahead and